Colonel Wyatt hits the screen, got stories bold and keen. Old soldier, sharp and mean, tells truths they've never seen. Rugby lover with a roar, Africa flowing in his core. YouTube rants they can't ignore, his passion makes his heart soar. Colonel Wyatt, hear his call, shining light through it all. Trolls may rise, but he'll stand tall. Subscribe now, don't miss the brawl. Military mind, keen and wise, truths come out, no disguise. South African skies, in his eyes, hear his voice, no surprise. Retired soldier with the fight, in the dark he brings the light. Angry rants, truths ignite, join the cause, join the ride. Colonel Wyatt, hear his call, shining light through it all. Trolls may rise, but he'll stand tall. Subscribe now, don't miss the brawl. Enemies knocked on his door, trolls attack, but he's more with each click. Watch him soar on the truth waves, he explodes. Colonel Wyatt, hear his call, shining light through it all. Trolls may rise, but he'll stand tall. Subscribe now, don't miss the brawl. Right now, don't miss the brawl.
Take a picture.
Another day has arrived, and we are still in the same place of disarray. Hope is in the distance. I can see a tiny glimpse of light, just a tiny, tiny light. It is there, I know it. I can feel it in my heart. I have prayed for it for oh so long. I know that it is coming our way. Tomorrow may not arrive, yesterday has gone, but this I know, today is gonna turn out just right. Colonel Chris is a ray of sunshine, he has arrived just in time to keep that tiny light in the horizon still burning bright. Our prayers are being answered, so don't despair. Someone we can trust, which has been a long time coming when our hopes were shattered. He is that tiny bright light in the distance. Tomorrow may not arrive, I can feel it in my heart. I have prayed for it for oh so long. I know that it is coming our way. Tomorrow may not arrive, yesterday has gone, but this I know, today is gonna turn out just right. Colonel Chris is a ray of sunshine, he has arrived just in time to keep that tiny light in the horizon still burning bright. Our Colonel Chris is a ray of sunshine. He has arrived just in time to keep that tiny light in the horizon still burning bright. Our prayers are being answered, so don't despair. Someone we can trust, which has been a long time coming when our hopes were shattered. He is that tiny bright light in the distance.
Hey folks, I'm back in the studio, so let's make sure things are working properly. You can actually hear the sound over here. Let's make sure things are... Okay, that's good. All right, welcome back. It's Chris live in central Pennsylvania, no longer in Birmingham, Alabama, after my visit to refugees, first content creator to interview refugees here on the ground in the States. That follows being the first ever journalist to interview the refugees, period. Contrary to the lies of the British broadcasting propaganda outlet, I was the first to do it. So, Ethelwyn Rebello, thank you for becoming a member. Appreciate that. And Team Fenter, thank you for the 70 Rand Super Chat. All right, folks, let me just start off by saying the following, okay? I mean, I don't need reminders to be grateful for existence, for life. Life is a precious gift that we often take for granted. We bellyache and moan about our condition or about things we're unhappy about. But at the end of the day, no matter what the struggle, life is precious, and we should consider it a great gift that we really want to, grasp a hold of. And so that was something I thought about this weekend. But when I was at the airport in Atlanta earlier tonight, trying to buy a sandwich after running around that airport, trying to get from one place to another, when one plane was swapped out for another plane and flights were canceled. And anyway, I could have driven home from Alabama in less time than it took. It took 13 hours to get home. So it's 3:30 in the morning here now, and I started this journey at 2 o'clock in the afternoon after I turned in my car, and I was at the airport in Birmingham. Long story, but I want to talk about this. So I'm standing there waiting in line to buy a sandwich and a bag of crisp and an iced tea. And a family in front of me had 3 kids, and it's typical kids sort of thing. They must have been boys who were 7 or 8 years old, something like that. Anyway. And the parents are like, you want something? And they're looking at the prices, like $14 for a sandwich, and there's like 7 to 5 of those. There's 3 kids and 2 parents. That's, it's going to cost like $100, something like that. But dad's going to shell it out. And the kid's like, I don't want anything. He's like, oh, there's grapes up there. And I'm not commenting on the family, but while I was waiting for them, in front of them was a veteran who was missing both his arms. Both arms are prosthetic. And, if you don't think about the precious gift of life and think about how somebody who went through such a horrific thing to lose both arms fights on and lives their life, and those who confined to wheelchairs, those with ailments who continue to fight, those who can't hear, like little Zoe, those who can't speak. It makes you appreciate just how precious life is. And it puts all of the disgusting, vile, repulsive, racist, hate wankers and commenters into perspective. They're pathetic losers. And, you gotta smell the roses sometime. Take a break. All right. All right. Let me say hello to everybody in the chat, and then we'll get into some news here, and we'll chat. And I'm going to tell you my story at the airport. I wanted to talk about that appreciation for life before I complain about my flight, because it was brutal. Shannon, welcome to Lucy Zeeley. Welcome. Fonz is back. Sloth Puppy, hello. OG Sloth Puppy. They're Culinary Pirates. Nicolette Steenkamp, Yolandi Smith, Konrad Geldenhuis, Chris Thunder, Oki, Dr. Jackal Entertainment, Francis Ruiz, Mandy van Rooyen, Golda Kruger, Carol Ann Burns, Rena Watt, Loretta, welcome back to you. Team Fenter, Esmeralda Pretorius, Mariki Bezidenhout, welcome to you. Rudolph Skeppers is back. Work People. Sounds like a band, doesn't it? The Work People. Elmarie Mayer, Chantal Durand, Mohammed Lahar, welcome back, Mohammed. And then Ethelyn, thank you for the membership. Multipass. Lelu Dallas, Multipass. Blodkop is back. And I finally, it sinks in my head. Blodkop lives in America now. I finally figured that out. Took me a while. Raina Fletch is here. Jana Vandenberg. Christopher Mayer. Madeline Svart. Rhonda Absalon. And Team Fenter gave the 7 round super chat. Awkward Leon is back. Vilma Rasmus. Vilma's been around a long time. I think she's qualifies as an OG. If not, she's pretty close to being one. Kratos, Monica Vellemont, Madeline, Hendrik Britz. Oh gosh, there's lots more names here. I'm probably missing a few. Sorry if I'm doing that. Wendy V, Little Miss Know It All. And then Art Queen Liza Ray Cordier. Wendy says, you finally arrived home. How long was the delay on account of those who got kicked in the toilet? You got locked in the toilet. Sean Free, Nicolette Steenkamp, Barbie. I'm a Barbie girl in the bar. I heard that this weekend. Yeah, but you know, what's what was? Oh, now I'm having a senior moment there. You're brutal, sheesh. Even the predator would quit by now. Yeah, that's right, culinary pirates. I don't. I just keep coming. I think I heard Birmingham in Alabama. Super surprised to see you live this time of day. Well, Yolandi, that's because normally I'm asleep unless there's an event breaking in South Africa. Peter, well, I'm not usually asleep. Yeah, I'm usually asleep by 3:41. People, please make sure that you are ready for the rapture when Yeshua is coming. Okay, thank you, Peter. Peter Wick, Johan Barnard, Doretta Fundemava, Jake Overly Thinker. Okay. Ludwig Hoyer, Ibrahim Stain. Cyberrag's been around a long time too. Francois van Heert, welcome to you. Goeiemorgen to you as well. Alindy Mari De Lang, Christian Willy Liebenberg. 1440 Chantel. Okay, Mad Max is here. Cyberrags, Alan, Sari Skuman, Dylan Kronberg, there's an OG. Okay, Uwandre. Okay, that's an unusual name. Don't think this is Night Owls. It's starting more like early worm for the Colonel. Hope you didn't have any more run-ins with the toes again. Stop it. Colonel has been dedicated to determination like none other. That's for sure. And for that I get abused. Not by you lot, but by other people, by scumbags. People with penis envy. That's what the problem is. Hey, Patrick. All right, Elephant Lover, welcome to you. So, all right, so I think people know why I was in Alabama. So that trip was because the CNN network reached out to me a couple weeks ago and asked me if I would put them in contact with refugees for an upcoming documentary they're filming for Anderson Cooper's program, which is planned to air around the G20 summit in November. And I wrote them, I said, oh, okay, guys, you understand that people don't trust CNN, okay, right? Especially this crowd. And I said, I'm willing to help if I know a little bit more. And we had a Zoom session, and I agreed to help them. Mostly because whether we help them or not, they're going to run the story. And if we don't help them, then we won't make sure that the right people are able to at least speak to them, like Martin von Staden, Mark Oppenheimer, refugees, me. Anyway, so they agreed. So I interceded on their behalf. Most refugees just simply ignored them or said no. In fact, Earl initially didn't want to do the interview, and he told me he wouldn't do it. And then I said, let me talk to Earl. And I talked to Earl because he's articulate. He's a smart guy, and I thought he'd be a good face to put on camera. And so Earl said, yeah, I think, okay, I'll do it. And so I told them, and then so CNN invited me to come down there and participate in the interview. And so I went down there, and I was there for Earl's interview earlier yesterday now. And then when we were done with him, we went to a different location, and they did an interview with me. His was long. Spent about an hour and 40 minutes talking to Earl, which will be distilled down to probably just a couple minutes in a 42-minute documentary because of commercials. And then they spoke to me for about 35, 40 minutes, but I don't think they're going to put my content in there. We'll see. I'll wait in November and see what happens. But it was my pleasure to work with them. They were very professional, lovely. But I can see that people think they're objective, but their worldviews, yeah. So anyway, nonetheless, they were fair, and we'll see how it comes out. So they're still doing more work on that documentary. They're going to South Africa. I was trying to weasel myself into a free trip to South Africa, but they're going to South Africa in August when I will not be available, so I won't be part of that. But they'll be in South Africa talking. They're going to talk to EFF. They're going to talk to, I think they're going to talk to AfriForum as well. I don't know if they're talking to the DA. So anyway, we'll see what happens. So that's why I was down there. And of course, I took advantage of that. I mean, it's silly to go down there. And I had lots of plans, including filming an interview about this brewery called Good People, which is in Birmingham. It's a local craft brewery, and they're pretty big, and they're growing. And they have an amazing brew house right across from Regent's Park, which is where the Barons play out, the Birmingham Barons play baseball at. And so I sat in there, had some lunch, and I hung out there, and I talked to them, and I told them I do interviews, and I'd like to promote their business. And the guy sent a message to their marketing guy, and they said, yeah, they'll be here tomorrow morning. You can come in. The owners will be here, and they'll be happy to talk to you, and the marketing guy, and you can interview bartenders. Well, it's closed at 10:30. I arrived, the door's locked, but they let me in, and the guy didn't know anything about it. So he called the marketing guy. The marketing guy called me back and said, oh, look, I don't really have anybody there, not comfortable. You know what? Good people, your loss. Your loss. You had a great opportunity to get some free press, and you couldn't give me 5 minutes of your time. That's a shame. It's not my fault you didn't get the word. You had the word plenty in advance. Plus, I was there the next day, and you never called me back. You promised to call me back. So, despite that shabby treatment by the marketing guy for Good People, I'm still going to say good things about their organization and about their brew house. I have to say this, and this is something I want to get on air, but interviewing people. See, this is what irritates me. I don't need preparation to interview people. I can interview almost anybody on any topic at any time without preparation. I don't have to prepare questions because I'm accustomed to doing this. I've interrogated people, I've interviewed people, I've presented in a bazillion different ways, public speaking, senior people, presidents, prime ministers, generals, admirals. So, I'm ready to go on most topics most of the time. So I do prep for interviews, though, but I'm saying I don't have to. So I could easily have sat down with these folks and had lots of questions about, hey, what was the concept? Who came up with this idea? And when did you start? Was it in a garage? Or did you have this big place? Anyway, when did you get this facility? And one of the things I noticed when I was there is that I was sitting right next to where the till was, and people came in. People came in who were out riding bicycles. They're soaked from the humidity. They come in to buy beer. And people came in. They're going to the ball game. Other people came in. And all these people knew what beer they wanted. They have like 35 different brands or 35 different types of beer up there, and people come in, I want this and I want that. It's well known, and these are regulars, and that's a very good sign for business. Your regulars come back. Anyway, so I just wanted, but so I will probably do a little bit about the Good People Brewery, and it's a shame that they didn't wish to contribute to the conversation, because it would have been really nice. There was no one in the place, there was no music playing, so no copyright concerns, and it's a beautiful location. I have the photos here. I'll show them to you sometime when I put them in a video, and it's just a shame. And this is people work in marketing. I don't think they understand what's going on. So anyway, so whatever. That's their loss, not mine. So anyway, I took advantage of it. So I went down and I was going to interview them. Didn't happen. And then I stopped by the Veterans of Foreign Wars post 668 in Birmingham, which is near the hotel. I was staying at the Sheraton. And I happened to see it over there. So I drove in and they were closed. And there was a guy working on the property, and he came out. He's a veteran member. He used to be the quartermaster, and he said, yeah, no, I'll let you come on in. So he offered me a Coke, and we sat down, we chatted, and this nice guy, his name is Scotty Black, and told me all about the place and what they do, but they're only open once a month, canteen. We were chatting. He told me about a place called Home for Heroes. Someone started a residential place for veterans to help homeless veterans. And so I drove out to check it out, and I was going to film out there, but there's nobody available. No one was there. I called, no one answered the phone. So that was a bust. Anyway, but what wasn't a bust is my interviews with Earl. And so Earl and I spoke in the morning. We talked about baseball. That video will be coming. Then we sat down. We talked about life where he lives at, which is a lovely location, folks. It's beautiful. And then we did the live broadcast, in which over 700 people tuned in, 800 people tuned in for the live stream. I think 30,000 plus now have watched it, which is awesome. Despite that video, we still have people running around spreading false lies about the refugee program. So anyway, so that was my ulterior motive. Now, to tell you the kind of person I am, I talked to the CNN producer because they actually paid for my flight and for me to come down there because I was participating in this. So they paid for my flight, they paid for my hotel, they paid for my rental car. Very kind of them. They didn't pay for my petrol. They didn't pay for my parking, although I think they offered at the end, but I said it's okay. So I wrote to him. I said, look, since I'm here, it's silly not to, and we're going to follow up for previous interviews. I plan to interview him. If you have any objections to that, just let me know, and I won't do it. And the producer wrote back and said, no, not at all, Chris. That's your thing. Go ahead and do it. You're down here. Make use of the time. So that was very kind of them. I appreciate that. So it was very professional working with him. We'll see how the documentary comes out. There aren't many veterans who are homeless, Mad Max. Most veterans who are homeless have mental issues, or substance abuse issues, usually stemming from mental issues or vice versa. There aren't that many homeless veterans. No veteran in this country needs to be homeless, and that's the conversation we had. So that VFW has a lot of resources because they're right next to the football stadium and the basketball arena for the university and for professional teams. And so they have a parking lot with 150 spots, and they sell parking, and it's a gated thing. So I mean, it's protected. So all the sporting events, people, it's walking distance. They make a lot of money every month off that. So they have enough resources, despite being only about 300 members in their post, that they can pay to put people in that house. So he told me they spend $1,500 a month to put a veteran in that place, and they're paying for that for a few veterans. So that's a lot of money. And we're talking, it's over $30,000 a year minimum for 2 veterans. So that's a lot of money. But they do that because they have those kind of resources. I can only dream of having those kind of resources for my veterans organization. We don't have that kind of advantage. So, but there are a lot of homeless people that live around the VFW down there around the stadium because the weather is warm and they hang out there. So they have to call the police frequently and have them removed. So anyway, but that was interesting. But everything was kind of a bust except for the stuff with Earl. And it was really lovely. Wonderful family. Had a really nice time. So, all right, I'm going to tell you about my trip back today. So you just not get away from the get-go. You mean your brain works, yes. Loretta says, thank you much for everything you're doing. No words to show enough gratitude. Well, thank you for that. Okay. Yeah, the false narrative is increasing on a daily basis, and that's why we do these things. That's why we do these things, to refute it. We make a record. There's a record of this happening. So Francis says, yes, Colonel, there's a lot of new nonsense about the refugees struggling. We know it's utter nonsense. Yes, it's a recycling of a video that was published a month and a half ago, which was full of half-truths and misstatements and misrepresentations. And I followed it up and spoke to that family, and everything that was said in that video was untrue at the point that I called them. Now, some of it had been true prior to that, but the lady who did that retracted her video and disappeared because people saw her and didn't like what she had to say. Peter, stop the nonsense, okay? I tolerated it once. That's the second time. That's the second time. All right? If you want to prophesize, go on a street corner and spread the gospel, okay? This isn't a place to spread the gospel. I respect people of faith, but not trolls, okay? All right? You got your message in once. Now you're just trolling. That message has been deleted. Subsequent acts will lead to timeout, okay? You've been warned. How difficult will it be for a 6-year-old programming a job in the USA? Well, if you're any good, cycling journeys, it won't be difficult at all. If you've got talent. They weren't stuck in the toilets. Cynthia, welcome. Marie Biscuit, having dinner with the wife when the husband is at work. No, I had dinner with the kids and the son-in-law and the daughter-in-law and their kids, and the wife was there. Yep. Well, he set it up. He invited me. I mean, it's fine. I didn't feel the need to intrude on their family. I would have been perfectly fine staying back at the hotel and getting some rest because I haven't slept in like 5 days. I only had a few minutes sleep here and there. Dion Murray, thank you for your subscription. That's right. Time, place, and context matters. Thank you, Francois van Heerden. Firefox 40, welcome to you. So many out there spewing crap again. So many on the internet. Well, that's because the program is working. As people leave and they realize it, they ramp up the BS to try to distract people. Yeah, Newsroom Africa is just horrible, and they're guilty of libel and slander. They did that to me. They lied. They outright lied. That thing with Amanda Ghost, the professor at Stellenbosch. When I questioned something, they lied. And the next week they had a thing that said, well, a week ago, a right-wing podcaster, Colonel Chris Wyatt, claimed this about land. I didn't say anything about land, you geniuses. I was talking about sanctions. There were no sanctions in South Africa. She lied and said there were sanctions in South Africa. That's a total lie. So I called her out. And then they made something up I never even said. They slander and they lie. And they're just terrible people. Angelique, okay, cool. Bert? Question is not ridiculous. I've been watching your podcast since last year. Well done. Thank you. That's not a question, Bert. Rooster, Mad Max, Hutful Biker. Quick question. Assuming we come to USA, how does being a juror work? Well, most states you have to be a registered voter. You're going to have to be an American citizen to be a juror, so don't worry about that. It's not even going to affect you. if you come here as someone coming to the country, you're not going to become a citizen after 5 years. So that's not an issue you need to worry about. But you only become a juror by being drawn in a jury pool, which is pulled at random, usually by registered voters. Not entirely. Some states do differently, but usually it's registered voters. My son is a millwright, wanted to know the best state to be in for that. Brett, I don't have an answer for that. I mean, we have steel mills all over the damn country. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you about that. I mean, you go to Google and do a little research, you know. Who does he want to work for? Newsroom Africa host puts on his fancy accent and holds water for any black leader. Yeah, and he also sounds like he's been hanging out in Babylon. You know, he sounds gay as the day is long, and it's a very annoying accent he has. I was watching another stream at the airport, and suddenly I heard you say, "Sir, that Firefox was giving you trouble." I nearly unseated myself. Huh? That Firefox was giving you trouble. Huh? Oh, I said that Firefox was giving. Yeah, no, I say that a lot because sometimes with YouTube, the tabs, it wasn't you, it was them. Louis Lube, what's up, man? Trump poses again trying to gain national support to sanction Israel. How would America view this move? Well, he's just signed South Africa's death sentence. That's what he's done. Sound has improved a lot. What do you mean my sound has improved a lot? Huh? I don't know what you're talking about. How has my sound improved? I've just returned to my studio. Been gone for 3 days. Tsunami hit. Yeah, I got the news on the tsunami. We'll get to that in a moment. Montana's quite expensive. I don't know that that's true. It depends where you're at. You're welcome, Talitha. I use Brave, but I use it for different things. I use Brave, I use Chrome, I use Firefox, all for different things. Calls from RC. Apparently, local cell providers may assign a local number. Is this true? No, they're not local cell providers that do that. It's the U.S. Embassy that does that. So first off, let's get that straight. The U.S. Embassy routes calls from the States, and they might be doing it for RSC. I don't know. Some people said they got numbers 27. They talked to a Kenyan. So that makes sense, but I don't know that for a fact. Look, there's lots of people saying things are coming out now. Now people are giving advice on the... Look, I'm no longer going to discuss the H2A thing, you know. You have to decide what's up for you, okay? I can't make that decision for you because I got people that are going to make claims to the contrary, and I'm not going to get involved in that. There are people who are not Americans who claim to have access to American officials, and I'm suspicious, but I'm not going to get in the middle of a pissing fight. So, anyway. What are my views in the State Department? Where the fuck have they been for 25 years? That's my views on that, Rooster. Where have they been? I reported on this crap for years in the intelligence community from the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense was informed. They knew that the murders were taking place. They knew what happened when the commandos were removed. I reported on that. Classified reports. I can't say what was in those reports. But, I mean, why did the State Department now just get their head out of their ass? Why were they living with the kumbaya? Everything is wonderful in South Africa. They're our friends. We love them. When they were doing everything against our national interests for years. Under Bush, under Clinton, under Obama, under Trump the first time, under Biden, and now we finally get our head out of our ass. And so that's what I have to say about that. That's what I have to say about that, Rooster. I'm not impressed. That don't impress me much, as Shania Twain would say. Distinguished government is telling citizens of South Africa that they are waiting on the U.S. for feedback. That's a lie. There's no feedback. They haven't answered the preconditions. They haven't done any work to negotiate. They are such lying sacks of horse manure, Philip. 3 months ago, a well-known Afrikaans economist implied that tariffs won't have a big impact. Now he says it'll be... Yes, I know who you're talking about. You're talking about Davy Root. Fonz, go ahead and say it. Davy Root. I've said all along that... See, this is what's fascinating. This is what's fascinating. People denied what I informed and analyzed to you, and I've been telling you for months. People ignored what I said 18 months ago about AGOA not being renewed. People ignored what I've said about the refugee program. And time after time after time after time after time, my analysis has been spot on. You know, I still got shitbirds lying about me, spreading rumors, talking horse shit. It's so comical. It's so pathetic. No, Afrikaners outside South Africa will not be considered. You must be in South Africa. What do you mean nobody knows the answer, Johan Swart? I've been given that answer since February 7th. And since May 12th, I've been able to tell you definitively. What do you mean nobody knows the answer? I've been saying that forever. That said, put a statement of interest in. You never know. Yeah, Loretta agrees with me. Why did it take them 30 years? I've reported on this stuff for years in the intelligence community. Years. Years and years and years. And when the commandos were disbanded, I was all over that. ANC is purposely alienating us. No, I think they're just that stupid. I'm going to listen to Neil DeBeer on this one. They're just that stupid. People step away from Amerikaners. There's something we should know. Lots of comments on X calling cameras. Eli Berserker. I'm not getting involved in the Amerikaners thing. That's not my place. I have nothing to say. I have no inside information about that. No one's dragging me in that crap. People have already ruined my relationship with Byron Shepard, who's acting like a child. I'm not getting involved in that. Not getting involved in that. I sent the guy a greeting the other day, wishing him well, and he hasn't had the courtesy to respond. So I think we're done there. If people are going to be asses and rude to me, I'm done. And some of y'all started that mess, not me, whoever it was, by going and being abusive to him. And so I pay the price. Whatever. If people are small-minded, I'm not going to get involved in it. That's not my place. I mean, whatever. Professor is already doing podcasts. If the program's cancel Afrikaners, then they need to look at creating their own enclaves. Yeah, okay, Alan, I'm not going to get in a dispute with Professor G either, so. The ANC think they can play the poor black nation and get handed everything on a silver platter. Yep, I think you're right. That's a good description, Manny. But at the same time, they're striking out, pretending they're bold, holding a liberation movement. Can you imagine this? 30 years after the ANC takes power in South Africa, 60 years after the other countries get their independence, and 50 years in some cases, they hold a liberation movement summit. For what? What are you liberating yourselves from? Common sense? Decency? Morons. Alita, there's a lot of idiots and a lot of nasty stuff said. Trump pointing out like on Twitter, I posted because I didn't have time to do a video. I posted on Twitter the farmer being killed, and then I got attacked. Well, his wife and son were behind it. Why don't you talk about that? Because that wasn't the point of the video. The point of the video was that the rural insecurity in South Africa and the ANC may be complicit in crimes against humanity by failing to protect the public. When will a country question this? Is what I said. And they attacked me. Well, the son. What does the son and the wife have to do? I don't care who killed the guy. He's a farmer. He was killed in rural South Africa because there's no deterrence to criminals. And the horrible things people said about me. And then the stupid things. Why don't you report on black farmers being murdered? Hey, moron, I do. Why don't you report it? I do. Because you choose to be selected. I love how stupid people are on social media. They distill the entire essence of a person down to 2 sentences in a frickin' tweet. The one tweet out of 15. By the way, I've posted 15,000 tweets over the years. Over the 20 plus years I've been on Twitter. 15,000 tweets, even though I barely use Twitter. And you're going to come at me after 2 paragraphs because you're too stupid to understand what I said and call me something I'm not. Footsec. Yeah, you can't fix stupid. Miss Lowe, you can ask. Go ahead. What's your question? I'll try and answer it. Wild Mountain says, I have zero faith in CNN being objective, but I'm glad you were involved at least. Well, I mean, look, guys, here's the approach in this. Okay, let me explain this. When I was a young officer in the Army, and we went to the Gulf War, General Funk, Major General Funk, Paul Funk, was the commander of the 3rd Army Division. He had a bad experience in Vietnam. Didn't trust the media. So no media were embedded with 3rd Army Division. We had no press around us. So no one knows about the exploits of the 3rd Army Division because the media didn't cover it. But they know about the Battle of 73rd Easting, and they know all about the 1st Armored Division, know all about 5th Corps, because they had lots of reporters were covering things. Rick Atkinson was there, everyone, but nobody covered us. So yes, the soldiers can write something, but it's not the same if a soldier writes it as if the press writes it, because the press gets it out then. A soldier writes their memoirs or writes a book years later, and it's different. So no one knows the history. It's not really there. Thank you, Betty, for becoming a member. Or for being a member. Thank you so much. Yeah, so he learned all around lessons. The lesson I learned about the media is that they are going to write a story. Whether you help them or not, they're going to write a story. Whether you talk to them or not, they're going to write a story. The key is for you to be on top of your game and not be caught in a trap. And it takes a little experience for that. And so the questions I was asked today, in my view, a couple of them were meant to put me on the back foot and put me in a trap. But I was prepared for them, and I don't have anything to hide, so I was fine answering it. So we'll see how I come across if I even make it through the cutting room floor. Errol will make it through the cutting room floor, but I don't know if they're going to use my content. But if you don't engage them, they'll write something anyway. So why not engage them? It doesn't mean you're going to get what you expect or what is fair or objective, but if you don't, you guarantee it's not going to be objective. So at least you try. And that's the approach I take. Okay. Just order Truth, Lies, and Alibis, an X-ray written by Winnie Mandela and her vicious sock. Oh, good Lord. Certain criminals have a free pass. Yep. Zargon Future says, was it intentionally to say things fall apart? Have you read Trump? Things... Yes, it was intentional because I do have Chinua Achebe's novel, one of his first novels, if not his first novel, Things Fall Apart, and very famous. And I also have his most recent one he put out. Yep, it's the most apt book to describe South Africa. It is. In fact, I don't know if I have it here. Let me see if it's here. I have one of his books here on the shelf. Here somewhere. No, I'm sorry. I don't have his. I'm sorry. I don't have his. What I meant is I have that book and I've read it, but I have Wole Soyinka's most recent book. That's the one I just have. Chronicles from the Land of Happiest People on the Earth. This is a recent one that came out because he's still alive. Well, at least he was when this was published just a couple years ago. Yep. Sorry. But I do have Chinua Achebe's. It's must reading for any Africanist. You really need to read that. It's like King Leopold's Ghost. Not the best book, but must reading for any Africanist. But I do have this Argon, and I'm impressed that you know that. Most people have no idea what I'm talking about. So, yeah, I do things like that. I put titles up that surprise people. I mean, people have no idea. It's funny because I found someone who's trolling on me. They're using an Afrikaans name for the username. And, I wish these Americans would read things like Ante Krug's Country of My Skull. Well, sweetheart, I've read the book. It's boring. I read it when it came out. I have a hard copy of it. Yep, sure do. I found it boring. Also, it's all bullshit. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission was a scam. It was a scam. It was a scam. Yep, it was a way to let black murderers off, to forgive them, to not charge them with crimes. And they refused to do the same thing for most whites who were involved in the apartheid state. So the whole thing was a scam. It was not, and it was held up as the example for the world. Rwanda should do this. Chile should do this. We should have Truth and Reconciliation Commissions everywhere where we all come together and we reconcile. There was no reconciliation. It was demonization of people in the apartheid regime and a free pass for murderers from the racist organizations that fought for liberation. So, yeah, Ante Krug's book, big whoop. Snooze fest. All right. I often challenge our DA rep on basic human rights abuses that are taking place in our area. We've been blocked from every social media platform of hers. Yeah, there you go. I didn't see light. Well, first off, if a political person blocks you on social media in America, they're going to be in trouble. If you have a political account on a social media, that's an official account, and you cannot block people. That's illegal in America. We've had politicians try it, and they get in trouble for it. But you can do whatever you want in South Africa. It's a lawless, crazy land. At least now maybe CNN will take you more accurate and serious on issues and stories. Perhaps, Alan. Vic Harps, welcome to you. We'll see, Loretta. I'm not making any promises. Anthony Jeffrey's book, People's War, is so revealing. Yep, yeah, that's another one. I've actually got the... do I have People's War here? No, I think I have her other one. I've got a couple copies of the same book from Anthea Jeffrey. Brilliant lady. I've interviewed her. Yep. Was somebody complaining about Byron? Leave Byron alone. That's why I said I'm not getting involved in that. Don't drag me into that. People ruin that relationship. I don't know why. A nation canceled. That's a good one. I always called them the angry, naughty children. How? Okay, you were going to ask me a question. Where's the question at? Oh, hey, Edward. She was going to ask me a question. Did I answer her question? I don't see the question. Maybe I missed it. Zonneblom, hey, like your goed. Yeah, thank you. I am goed. I am goed. No, I flew economy, not business class. No, this is a few days back now. Assuming the info on Obama being involved in Russia hoax was Trump's first term. Does he have presidential immunity? No, he doesn't, because his acts were outside his duties. You don't get immunity for crimes. You get immunity for official acts. It's not an official act to violate the Constitution and abuse the intelligence community and misuse it. That's not an official act. Now, if the president orders a bomb strike on something in the context of war, that they're protected. If the president does something where the law says this and then the law is overturned, they're protected. So I hope you read my books on how not to run a country. Angelo, I don't have your books, to my knowledge. I didn't realize you published books. My apologies for that. Good to see you, Angelo. How's it going? I'll read that one that you mentioned too. Okay. Do you know if there is an international arrest warrant issued from a post? No, there's no arrest warrant. No, look, there's a lot of look. Okay, this is starting to really piss me off. Not you, Culinary Pirate. Who wrote that? 100 from here. No, it's really starting to piss me off. There are a bunch of shitheads on YouTube right now. They're making clickbait videos claiming there's an arrest warrant for Ramaphosa, claiming that the law has passed in America. There's a sanctions list of people being sanctioned. That's all bullshit. That's just lies. And people fall for it. It's unbelievable. They do it with such conviction. They just lie. And people, hey, you should interview this person. You should talk to this person. I'm not going to talk to a cock prodder. I'm not going to bring somebody I know lies and misleads people. What does that be? I'm not going to do that. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I'm just not going to do it. First time catching live for me. We'll have to watch later, as I missed everything media-based today and missed most of the live. Well, thank you, Arnold Myberg. Thank you for being here. Angelus is all good, but that doesn't solve my problem, Angelo. Where are the books? What are they called? I guess I'll have to look them up. Can I get it from Exclusive? Well, you won't get notifications. Okay, everybody chill on the notification. You won't get notifications for any of my lives the past few days, for the most part, because all of them were set up less than 30 minutes before I went live, because I didn't know when I'd be able to go live. So you're not going to get them, and that was the same tonight. So if I don't set up a stream at least 30 minutes, 31 minutes in advance, YouTube doesn't notify people normally. Hey, Cheryl, what's going on? Hunter, you're welcome. Okay. Is Rainbow Nation on Fire? Chris, have you ever read Rocca, written by... No, I haven't read that. Follow Anthea religiously. She has a fantastic insight in history with regard to history. And yeah, she does. Yep, everything she wrote is coming true. Thank you, Anti-Floyd. Okay, so before we get to the tsunami and the earthquake in Russia, before we get to that, now I've got through the chat finally. It took 45 minutes. Let me talk about my trip, okay? All right, so I'm not complaining. I'm just saying this is what happened. Okay, so we did the interview with Earl. Excuse me, my ears really drive me nuts here. We did the interview with Earl, and CNN interviewed him in that one location. Then we went to another location. They interviewed me. That was over at about 12 o'clock. Okay, we started at 9. It was over by 12. So 3 hours doing that. Then I drove the producer back to the hotel, dropped him off, and I went to the airport. I got to the airport, and the airport's to the left, and I didn't remember seeing any petrol stations when I came in. So I said, I see two over there, BP and Amoco. So I went over, and I prefer BP, so I went to BP. I came in, put the pump in, I started pumping the petrol. My goodness, I am not embellishing. It took about 18 to 20 minutes to fill up the tank. It was like it trickled out. Some guy pulled up on the other side of that pump, and he got pissed off because he only got like 50 cents worth of petrol. He went and said, "What the hell?" And he left. But I already had so much inside to wait. Well, you know when you put the pump handle on and it has a little thing at the bottom so that it keeps it running and then it kicks off? Well, I'm waiting. So I had time to repack my bag. So I opened it, boot up, and I'm packing all my clothes, fold them up, put them in there, clean everything up, make sure I got my earpiece, got my wallets, got my passport, got everything I need. And I'm like, geez, this thing's still not done. So I'm cleaning up the car, making sure I got nothing left in, throwing the rubbish out of a Starbucks cup I threw in trash. And I'm like, it should be done by now. It's like, you know, it's up there, you know. So I walk around just in time to see that it never shut off. Gasoline is pouring out of the tank onto the ground. I whipped that thing out and shut it off. Unbelievable. It didn't shut off. So that's how things started. I should have realized that this was going to be a bad day from that point. Anyway, all the petrol dries almost immediately because it evaporates. It was frickin', 90-some degrees Fahrenheit and 90% humidity. So I got in the car. I drove to the airport. I dropped the car off in good order. I went inside, and I went to the counter. I checked in. I went through security. and I went to find something to eat. And I walked all the way down to one end of the airport. And of course, my hip has bothered me, and only to find out that the place that sells tacos was closed. I mean, they were open to sell booze, but I don't want booze. I want food. So I went back and I sat down and I went to Burger King, and I plugged in my laptop and my phone across in a place where there was a main, and then I walked over and ordered. 22 minutes later, I finally got my food from Burger King. Talking about slow. So then I walked down and I got to the middle of the airport and I did a live stream. And we had a lekker live stream. I hope people enjoyed that. It was a nice turnout for it too. I think it was over 5,000 while we were live. And then I went. At this point, my flight is not mentioned what gate. And it isn't on my boarding pass because my flight was at 5:50, I think it was. Yeah. Something like that, 5:40. And I was there at 2 o'clock, so almost 1:30, 4 hours before the flight I got there. So they hadn't assigned the gate on the boarding pass. So the board didn't have anything. So I'm walking, and I went to the end where Delta's at, I guess, because they're at the other end of the airport. I went down there, and as I went down, they updated the board on that end of the airport, and it said that the flight had been delayed from 5:05 to 5:50 or something like that. I'm sure that's what it was, 5:05 to 5:50. So I walked down. There's nobody at the gates, any of the gates. They're all Delta. Nobody's there. So I went and I found a place to sit down, and I made some videos, which I uploaded, some shorts about some issues. And then I got up and I walked back at about 5:35, and then there were attendants there. So I went to the attendants, the crew from Delta, and I said, "Hey, I'm concerned that I may not make my connecting flight in Detroit because this thing is delayed, and I had a big window. Now I don't have a big window." She said, "Oh, you'll still make it, sir, because your gate is only 3 away. You land, you're 3 gates away from, so it's just a walk for about a minute or so." I said, "Okay." So while I'm talking to her, it gets updated from 5:50 to 6:07 delay. I'm like, "Oh, look, that just changed behind her on the wall." She goes, "Oh, wow." So they checked. "No, you're still good, sir." So they said, "Well, we can put you on an Atlanta flight." And I said, "Well, I don't really want to go through Atlanta. Plus, I would get there over an hour. I would get home over an hour later and have to sit in Atlanta for a while." So I'm like, "I don't want to go to Atlanta. So if I can make it, I'll make it." So I walk away and I started thinking, I'm like, and I looked up at the board and now it says 6:27. It changed again, delayed. So I came back and I said, "That says 6:27. I'm not going to make my flight now. So what am I going to do?" And they said, "Well, we can put you on the Atlanta flight." And I said, "Well, I mean, my leg is really bothering me. I mean, I had a really good seat. Can you get me an extra row?" And she did. She got me an extra row on that seat and on the flight to Harrisburg. Anyway, so I walk over and literally they start loading up and boarding for the Atlanta flight early. So I got on the flight, sat down. I got on the plane. It was about 5:45 for a flight that's supposed to leave at 6:14. So maybe it's about 5. Yeah, about 5:45. So 6:14. So I'm a half hour before the plane's supposed to leave. I'm on the plane. So then we're waiting for it to leave, and they're like, "Oh, we got some bad news, folks. There's been a ground stop in Atlanta. All the flights are delayed for 30 minutes. Okay, so 30 minutes came and went. We got an update. Now it's delayed till 7 p.m. Okay, so long story short, we sat on that plane for almost 3 hours, 2 hours and 48 minutes or something like that before we finally left. It's a 39-minute flight from Birmingham to Atlanta that evening. It was 26 coming down. I don't know why. Anyway, so get to Atlanta. I get out in the D concourse, and they tell me that I have to go to B. So we're all rushing. Everybody's flights. People going to Canada, trying to connect to Toronto. People going to Cincinnati, to Columbus, everywhere around the country, and they're missing their flights. Well, all those flights were delayed, thankfully. So my flight, I had a very tight window. It said it's leaving at 10:50, and I've got to be there, and it's like 10:20 or something like that. So I got to move. So I get off with the hip, and I'm carrying my bags. I get on the train. It's like being back in Japan after Typhoon Hagibis. There was like nowhere to move because all the flights are delayed, and they stopped running the trains. All the flights are delayed, every flight. I've got a photograph of the board, every single flight, hundreds of flights delayed. And what do? They stop the trains. So people have to walk through the airport. It's a long way. Anyway, so I managed to get on the train. I got over to the other terminal. I walked up and I looked and I misread the board. It said 9:59 for the departure. That was the original time. Well, it actually been pushed to 11:45. Didn't see that. So I went and got a sandwich. I came back and I realized at the time I talked to the guy up the counter. He said, "Yeah, it's 11:45. The plane is broken. They're swapping out the plane." Okay, that's good to hear. So then we're sitting there for a long time. And then after 11 o'clock, they finally tell us, "Oh, we have an update. Your gate is at D12. D12 is 2 gates from where I started, running through the airport for no reason whatsoever. So now we have to go back. I go downstairs to take the train out of service. So I had to walk at a brisk pace with this hip all the way across the airport to the D terminal, back to where I started. And then we walk in the terminal, and it's this lovely spot at the end. You come in, and it's like an ice box, polar, wonderful air conditioning. Feels so good. Then you go a little bit further, and we get to where our gate is, and there's no air conditioning. We're standing there melting, sweating our asses off, waiting for a flight at frickin', 11:30 at night. So then we finally board the plane. We get on the plane, and they tell us we're leaving at midnight, but we don't leave at midnight. Suddenly it's 12:06, and 12:14, then 12:21. They said, we have a slight problem. Somebody's locked in the restroom. We can't take off with someone in the restroom. So we're waiting for the maintenance crew to come out and fix that. Are you serious? Somebody's locked in the toilet? Yep. So they came on. Then it took them a while, but they got him out of the restroom. And then they walk up front, and they stopped. One of the seats was broken. The screw or something. One of the passenger seats was broken. Literally broken on the flight. So they had to fix that before we could leave. And while they're fixing it, I'm like, are we in an episode of South Park? So we finally departed at 12:48. 48 minutes after our delayed flight was supposed to depart. Anyway, I finally got home at 2. I got to the airport about 2:30 in the morning, drove home, got back at 3 o'clock, and here I am broadcasting. Okay, look, I'm not crying. I'm not complaining. I'm just relating to you what happened. I should have known when the petrol took half hour to pump into the car and then it spilled all over the street, this was going to be a bad day. I mean, I can drive from Birmingham, Alabama in less than 12 hours and get back to Pennsylvania. 21-hour trip took 5 days. Yeah, I believe it, Dirk. 6 minutes from Australia going to China. No one in government mentioning the issues of the U.S. Clearly, NCNG believe China, Russia can mitigate. Well, they think that, Dirk, but they're wrong. Planes, trains, and automobiles. That's right. A series of unfortunate events. That's a good description. A series of unfortunate events. You had a route track. Yeah, it was those kind of delays would have made me pull my hair out. Luckily, I'm bald, says Edward. After Trump's candidacy is over and someone else, well, he's not a candidacy, I mean his presidency, else takes over, could they send the refugees back? No, we've answered this question 1,000 times, Tony Pretorius. They cannot. It's a legal status. Unless you've done something fraudulent, you can't have it rescinded. Or the underlying conditions change. Louis, thank you for donating that membership to SDP. No, if the underlying conditions change and the racist laws and the racial discrimination in South Africa disappear, then they can take your refugee status away and send you home. But that never happens. It never happens. Nice story to tell the grandkids. Yeah, what a day, Colonel. You still managed to go live and be positive. You're a legend. Thank you, Jake Overley. I heard the U.S. changed the weather to cause the earthquake in Russia. We use cloud seeding. That's how we did it. Did you at least get a refund on all the extra gas that was spilled? No. It wasn't much, thankfully. Steve Martin's speech is priceless. Name is hidden. Just letting you know, my wife and I started a venture in profit sharing with some people. We both lost our jobs being July. This is why I've been scarce, trying to stay on our feet. Well, good luck with that, name hidden. Didn't even know you were ever here before. Sorry. Tony Pretorius says, thanks. You're welcome, Tony. Hopefully Delta will give you some extra sky miles. No, they won't. I forgot about the importance of sleep. Oh, my goodness. Matthew Dixon's awake. Thank you, Jay Jordan. Angelique's back. Took a break. Good to see you. Okay, just don't tell Arctic was the pilot. No, Arctic was not the pilot. No. Arctic flies the hoi polloi. Lifestyles of the rich and famous with Robin Leach. That's who he flies around. Today we've got Beyonce on the flight with Arctic. No, he flies really ritzy, fancy, important people around, not people like me. I'm at the back of the bus. Who is doing the tsunami watch as well? We're on tsunami alert here. David, are you in Northern California or Hawaii? Or are you in South Africa? You couldn't possibly have a tsunami watch there. Can we name you hippie now with your cranky hip? Ha ha ha. No, you can't. Oh, you're in Guam. Oh, that's right. I think you mentioned that. Yeah, Guam. Yeah, no, you should be on tsunami alert. It hit Russia already. Yep, and it also hit Hawaii. Okay, let's get on to that now. We've told the story. So the news here, folks. Tsunami waves hit Hawaii. Thank you, Yolanda Mayer, for the 70-man super chat. Appreciate that. Yeah, poor Arctic. Why is no one talking about 75 people a day that immigrated from South, mainly due to the same persecution? Because no one has the data and the government covers it up. So it's been mentioned a couple times by me. It's been mentioned by a couple other content creators, but not by mainstream media. for the most part. All right, let's get on to this breaking story here. What's going on here with the tsunami? The earthquake took place in Russia. Okay, I want to see. This is what happens. Why is that doing that? There it is. Okay. Right. Tsunami waves hit Hawaii as massive earthquake off Russia triggers evacuations across the Pacific. The first waves triggered by a massive 8.8 earthquake off Russia's coast have reached Hawaii with a 4-foot, 1.2 meter wave recorded off Oahu. People in Hawaii, some parts of the U.S. West Coast, and Japan have been told to evacuate after one of the strongest earthquakes in modern history hit Russia's eastern Kamchatka Peninsula. Hawaii's Governor Josh Green has asked people to heed evacuation orders and stay calm, while President Trump advised Americans to be alert for tsunami warnings. In Japan, 1.9 million people have been told to evacuate, and a tsunami wave of 4.3 feet has reached the northern Iwate prefecture. Tsunami alerts of varying levels have been issued in Philippines, Indonesia, Guam, Peru, the Galapagos. Wow. The tsunami has reached the shores of California. People began evacuating the higher ground in Indonesia's Papua New Guinea. People left behind by cruise ships as they rushed to leave port. Wow. Is it updated? Let's see if it's been updated.
It's very concerning, so we're not taking this lightly.
Right, so as far as being out of danger, it is still far too early to say that yet.
Absolutely. I mean, the reports tell us, if we can get an clear sign within the next 2 hours, that's going to be good news for us. But right now, we're taking it seriously, and we're on standby.
Tell us what you are observing around the coasts.
Mm-hmm. Well, that 8.8 earthquake was pretty significant. So, this is kind of resembles those tidal waves, tsunamis that we've had in the past. So, we're noticing flooding in some areas. It's not as significant. We are concerned, and that's why we don't know yet. The reports we've been getting. There's no fatalities, there's no injuries, because we've evacuated everybody who should be evacuated from low-lying areas. So, but we are getting reports of flooding in our hotel.
Yeah, so that's what's going on out there. We've got a ways to go. Pacific Tsunami Warning Center monitoring as tsunami waves have reached Hawaii. Oops, that's not what I want. Sorry, hit the wrong button there. So. You can see the flooding occurring. At around 7:20 p.m., estimated arrival of first tsunami wave in Hawaii, water can be seen gradually receding in Honolulu Bay and the Haleua Boat Harbor in Oahu's North Shore. Tsunami warning, 8-foot waves in Hawaii, Northern California braces for impact. This one was published a couple hours ago. Vehicles depart Waikiki Beach in Oahu after the 8.8 earthquake in Russia. Vilma's membership, thank you for that. 9 months. I assume distance helps a lot in situations like this. 2004 earthquake tsunami killed 300,000 because so many people live close to the epicenter. Was it that many people were killed, Dirk? I didn't realize it was that many people. That's crazy. You're a man and legend. Thanks for all doing exposing ANC. You're welcome. Just don't be calling me that hippie. That's not cute. Okay. All right, so, yep, that's crazy. By the way, Paul Mashatili's network is being exposed by Cockprot24. Deputy President's sons and friends raked in $49 million for Gauteng tender. Wow, what did I say? There you go. Deputy President Paul Mashatili's sons, Tabiso Mashatile and Tinyoko Malesa, are linked to a company awarded 2022 tender to maintain fire suppression detection systems in hospitals in Gauteng. The companies were paid a combined $36 million and are owed $12 million for the work already completed. The figures have come to light as part of an investigation into the companies and their failure to pay retrenched workers 219,000 rand in settlements since September. Wow. Deep ties to the president. Patronage. Corruption. That's crazy. 8-foot waves. Yeah, that could just be the start of it too. Yep. It's crazy. You can feel for these people and hope nothing bad happens. Well, it was announced earlier today by President Trump when asked the question, he is not going to the G20. Not going to the G20. I think maybe I'll send someone else because I've had a lot of problems with South Africa. They have some very bad policies. A lot of people being killed. I'd like to, but I don't think I will. Wow. There you go. Wow. Trump is not coming. If Professor Gumedi said a train ran was destroyed, then you know Mashtili is hiding billions, not millions. Yep. Yeah, Dirk, I'd like to interview Professor Gumedi. I met him, but I didn't get his contact. Speaking of corruption, 3 more people arrested in a 300 million rand West Coast shareholder fraud. Yep. 3 more people appeared in the Vredenburg Magistrates Court in connection with 300 million shareholder fraud case, bringing the total number to 10. Wow. People just keep cheating each other. Spreading disinformation is counterintuitive and destructive, says Nkebisi Jonas. Really? I think disinformation like calling President Trump a racist? Is that what you're talking about, Nkebisi? Nkebisi Jonas criticized some South Africans for spreading disinformation abroad, highlighting the need for unity in foreign policy. See, this is when they circle the wagons and they spread their propaganda. Thank you, Linda, for your membership. This is when you know that they're frauds, when they start this. When people speaking freely and telling the truth is called disinformation by politicians, you know that this is a totalitarian state trying to cover its backside. He emphasized Africa's growth potential despite challenges like debt, protectionism, and geopolitical tensions. And he called for South Africa to leverage its unique global trading ties, focusing on investment and strengthening relations with partners like the U.S. He refrained from naming specific groups, but obviously was talking about AfriForum, Solidarity, and, of course, Emma Powell, none of whom spread disinformation. The people spreading disinformation are the ANC and the Government of National Unity. So Nkebisi Jonas is full of crap. We are dead serious on the Nkabani threat, DA responds to Ramaphosa. Well, the Democratic Alliance, which betrays its members in good standing, is trying to stand up for itself. Well, we're not going to hear any part of this. The president says by virtue of staying in government, the DA is making empty threats. The DA has poured cold water on President Ramaphosa's remarks that his threats to vote against the budget, that its votes were not fired. The DA has poured cold water on President Cyril Ramaphosa's remarks that its threats to vote against the budget, had he not fired Nkabani, were empty. The party insists that it was not bluffing. The ANC and Ramaphosa were aware of what was happening. So she was fired, and they're saying if she hadn't been fired, they would have walked away. Yeah, I don't believe that for a second. They love the perks. Well, little Ronnie Lamola says peace must prevail. This idiot could scratch 2 sticks together and start a fire. Thinks he knows what's going on in Gaza. He wants a 2-state solution. Well, I hear it's funny to see these leftist wackadoodles and Hank wankers come around 25 years later and say, a 2-state solution. We had a proposed 2-state solution on the table. Ehud Barak offered it. He offered it. And the Palestinians rejected it. They didn't want it. They don't want a 2-state solution. They want to exterminate the Jews. That's what they want. Yep. Yep, Nkebisi Jonas and the MTN case. We'll see what happens there. Well, little Liam Jacobs is now a Joburg counselor. Does he even live in Joburg? Liam Jacobs is to be sworn in as a counselor in the city of Johannesburg, succeeding Kenny Kanene. Kanene, the BA's deputy president, resigned over controversy of hanging out in a accused murderer's house. Well, this little twit won't last very long, former DA member. Yeah, he won't last long. Not going to be long. Anyway, so the UK said they're going to recognize a Palestinian state along with France, and they're undermining global security. Idiots, because they hate Trump. So they're going to destroy global security because they hate Trump. Stupid people should wear signs. Like they proposed another Truth and Reconciliation event. Yeah, well, the first one was a fraud. Why have another one? All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. Be sure to hit the like button. A lot of you haven't done that. We've had 2,000 people tune in for this 3:30 in the morning Night Owls and just 370 likes, 429 currently here. Thank you for that. I'll be back. It's a busy Wednesday with my news program several hours from now. Then Ronaldo, Wednesday's the Colonel, and I've got my radio program later in the night, okay? You guys take care. Thanks for being here. Be sure to hit the like button. Thank you for the super chats and the membership. And for the likes, I do appreciate it. And life is wonderful, folks. Don't be sucked into the misery. You know, even when things are down, there's hope. All right? So take care of yourselves and be positive out there. It's my philosophy. Be positive, which is also my blood type. It works out pretty well. It's my blood type, man. Be positive. So why not? Why not? Anyway, that's going to do it from this end. I hope you're all well, and you have a good day, and I'll see you later today. Cheers.